Commander Kim Tae-ho stared at the dark screen in front of him. The numbers on his display did not make sense. 3 colony ships had gone missing in this area of space. All of them had families aboard, men, women, and children who just wanted to find a new home among the stars. "Commander, we are approaching the last known position," said Han-Mira from the pilot seat. Her hands moved smoothly over the controls. She had been flying ships for 12 years and knew how to handle anything space could throw at them. Tae-ho nodded and looked around the small bridge of their reconnaissance ship. His team was the best Earth defense had to offer. Park Jin-woo sat at the weapon station, checking his demolition equipment for the 3rd time today. The man never trusted anything to chance. Lee So-min was reviewing medical files on her tablet, preparing for whatever they might find. Choi Da-bin worked at her computer station, scanning for any electronic signals. Yoon Seok cleaned his rifle near the back wall, his sharp eyes always watching. "What do you think happened to them?" asked So-min. Her voice was quiet but steady. She had seen terrible things before as a military medic. "Pirates, maybe," said Jin-woo. "Or engine failures. Space is dangerous enough without adding monsters to the mix." Tae-ho wished it was that simple. The reports from the missing ships had been strange. The last messages talked about something following them. Something big, something that should not exist. "Contact ahead," Da-bin called out. "I am picking up metal debris, lots of it." Mira slowed the ship as they entered the debris field. Broken pieces of hull floated past their windows. Tae-ho recognized the design. These were pieces from the colony ship New Seoul. "Take us closer," he ordered. As they moved through the wreckage, the team fell silent. The pieces were not just broken, they were torn. Long claw marks ran across every surface. Whatever had done this was massive and very strong. "Commander," Seok spoke for the first time in hours. "Those marks, they were made by something alive." "How can you tell?" asked Mira. "Look at the pattern. Machines cut clean lines. These marks show anger. Whatever made them was hunting." Dabin's computer started beeping fast. "I am reading 3 more debris fields in this system, all colony ships, all torn apart the same way." Tae-ho felt cold fear in his stomach. 1 ship could be an accident. 4 ships meant something was hunting humans in this part of space. "Sir, you need to see this," So-min called from her medical station. She had been scanning the debris for any signs of survivors. "I am not reading any human remains. None at all." "What do you mean?" Tae-ho asked. "The ships are destroyed, but the people are gone. All of them. Like something took them away." The bridge became very quiet. Outside, pieces of broken dreams floated. In the darkness, families who would never reach their new homes. Children who would never grow up. "We need to report this," said Mira. "Earth defense needs to know something is hunting colony ships." Tae-ho was about to agree when Da-bin's computer exploded with warnings. Red lights flashed across her screen. "Contact. Something big moving through the asteroid belt. Very big." "How big?" asked Tae-ho. "Bigger than our ship." "Much bigger." Jin-woo moved to his weapons. "If it wants a fight, we can give it one." "Wait," said Seok. He was looking through the scope of his rifle out the window. "I can see it." They all turned to look. At first, there was nothing but darkness and floating rocks. Then something moved, something that made their ship look like a toy. The creature was like nothing in Earth's databases. It had the basic shape of a whale but with long arms that ended in claws. Its skin seemed to change color as it moved, sometimes matching the rocks around it. But the worst part was its eyes. They were intelligent. They looked at the human ship, like a cat looking at a mouse. "It knows we are here," whispered So-min. The creature moved closer. It did not swim through space like a fish in water. It seemed to step through it like space was just another floor to walk on. "All weapons ready," ordered Tae-ho. "Mira, prepare for emergency jump." "Jump drive needs 3 minutes to charge," she replied, her voice tight with fear. The creature was 50 meters away now, then 40, then 30. It moved without making any sound at all. "Fire," shouted Tae-ho. Jin-woo launched everything they had. Missiles streaked toward the creature. Laser beams cut through space. The weapons hit their target and exploded in bright flashes. When the light faded, the creature was still there. It had not even slowed down. "That's impossible," said Jinwoo. "Nothing survives a direct hit from plasma torpedoes." The creature opened its mouth. Rows of teeth filled a space larger than their ship's bridge. But instead of roaring, it made a sound like laughter. Cold, cruel laughter that somehow reached them through the vacuum of space. Then it attacked. The creature moved faster than anything that large should be able to move. One moment it was 30 meters away. The next moment its claws were tearing through their hull like paper. "Hull breach in sections 4 and 5, shouted Mira. "We are losing atmosphere." The ship shook as the creature grabbed them. Its claws punched through the armor like it was made of cloth. Emergency alarms screamed as systems failed one by one. "Jump drive is damaged," Mira called out. "We cannot escape." Taeho made the hardest decision of his life. "Abandon ship. Everyone to the escape pods." "Sir, we stick together," said Jinwoo. "That's an order. Go now." The creature's claws tore through the bridge. Sparks flew as computers died. The lights went out, leaving only the red glow of emergency power. Taeho pushed his team toward the escape pods. Somin went first, then Dabin. Seok grabbed his rifle and jumped into the third pod. Jinwoo looked back at his commander. "Go," Taeho shouted. Jinwoo jumped into his pod just as the creature's claw came down where he had been standing. Mira was the last one besides Taeho. "I won't leave you. Someone has to live to warn Earth. Go." She looked at him for one long moment, then jumped into her pod. Taeho reached his own escape pod as the ship broke apart around him. Through the small window, he could see his team's pods launching in different directions. The creature watched them go, its intelligent eyes following each pod as they flew toward different planets in the system. As Taeho's pod launched, the last thing he saw was the creature turning to look directly at him. In its eyes, he saw something that made his blood freeze. The creature was not just hunting them. It was learning from them. The pod's engines fired, carrying him away from the wreckage and toward an unknown world below. Behind him, the creature floated among the remains of their ship, its head turning, to track each escape pod as they disappeared into the darkness. The hunt had only just begun. 3 months had passed since the creature destroyed their ship. Commander Kim Taeho opened his eyes to another dawn on the desert planet that had become his prison. The twin suns rose over red sand dunes that stretched to the horizon in every direction. His escape pod had crashed into a canyon wall. For the first week, Taeho thought he would die in this wasteland. No water, no food. Just endless heat during the day and freezing cold at night. But humans were good at staying alive when everything tried to kill them. Taeho had used parts from his pod to build a shelter. He learned to find water by following the small desert, animals to hidden springs. He caught lizards with traps made from pod metal. When the lizards were not enough, he hunted the larger creatures that came out at night. The worst part was not knowing if his team was alive. Every day, he worked on the communication device he was building from pod parts. It was slow work with simple tools, but Taeho was patient. He had to believe his team was out there somewhere. He had to believe he would see them again. Far across the system, Park Jinwoo was having his own battle for survival. His pod had landed on a frozen moon where the temperature never rose above freezing. Ice covered everything. The air was thin but breathable. Jinwoo had found shelter in a cave system, but he was not alone. The ice bears were 3 meters tall with claws like swords. They hunted in packs and were smart enough to set traps. Jinwoo had lost count of how many times they had almost killed him. But Jinwoo knew explosives. He made bombs from chemicals in his pod's fuel system. He turned ice into weapons. He used his demolition training to bring down cave roofs on hunting packs. The ice bears learned to fear the sound of his footsteps. They had never faced anything like a human demolitions expert before. Jinwoo marked each day on his cave wall. 93 days since the crash. 93 days of fighting ice bears and eating their meat raw because fire would give away his position. He missed his team. He missed Taeho's calm voice giving orders. He missed Somin patching up his wounds after training accidents. Most of all, He missed having someone to watch his back. On a jungle planet on the other side of the system, Lee So-min was learning that survival sometimes meant helping others. Her pod had crashed in a forest so thick that sunlight barely reached. The air was hot and wet. Strange plants grew everywhere, and the sounds of unknown animals filled the day and night. So-min had found a tribe of small alien creatures living in the trees. They looked like a mix between monkeys and birds, with bright feathers and clever hands. At first they had thrown stones at her, but when So-min treated an injured young one with her medical kit, everything changed. The aliens brought her food and showed her which plants were safe to eat. They built her a shelter in their village high in the trees. In return, So-min used her medical training to help their sick and wounded. She could not speak their language, but medicine was universal. A broken bone needed to be set. A fever needed to be cooled. An infection needed to be cleaned. The aliens called her something that sounded like Healer Skywalker. So-min thought it was a good name. She had walked between the stars to reach them, but even in her tree village, So-min watched the skies and hoped for rescue. She missed her human teammates. She worried about what had happened to them after the creature attacked. In another part of the system, Choi Da-bin was proving that humans were very hard to keep in cages. Her escape pod had been picked up by a ship full of alien slavers. They were ugly creatures with too many arms and mean little eyes. They put Da-bin in chains and planned to sell her at the next slave market. The slavers made one big mistake. They underestimated human intelligence. Da-bin had been working with computers since she was a child. The slaver ship's systems were advanced, but they followed the same basic rules as any computer. While the slavers slept, Da-bin used her knowledge to hack into their network. First, she unlocked her chains. Then she accessed their navigation system and changed their course. The slavers woke up to find their ship heading toward a military patrol area instead of the slave market. When the slavers tried to fix their computers, they found that Da-bin had planted viruses in every system. Their weapons would not fire. Their engines would not respond. Even their toilets had stopped working. The slavers begged Da-bin to fix their ship before the military patrol found them. Instead, she stole their fastest escape shuttle and left. Them drifting in space with nothing but emergency power, Da-bin was free, but she was alone in an unfamiliar part of the galaxy. She had no way to find her team or return to Earth. All she could do was survive and hope. Yoon Seok had found himself in the middle of a war. His pod crashed near a battlefield where two alien armies had been fighting for years. One side looked like giant insects with armor plating. The other side looked like walking plants with natural weapons growing from their bodies. Both sides shot at Seok when they first saw him. But Seok was a sniper. He found high ground and started picking off targets from long range. His human-made rifle was more accurate than anything the aliens had. Soon, both armies wanted to hire him. Seok played them against each other, working for whoever paid him more. He used his earnings to buy better equipment and information about the local area. The aliens had never seen shooting like Seok's. He could hit targets at distances they thought impossible. They called him Ghostwalker because he could kill from so far away that they never saw the shot coming. But Seok was not just earning money. He was learning about this part of space and gathering resources. Someday he would find a way off this planet. Someday he would find his team. Han Mi-ra had the best luck of all the scattered team members. Her pod was rescued by a neutral trading station. The station's captain was an old alien who did not care about human politics or wars. He just wanted good pilots to fly his cargo ships. Mi-ra was an excellent pilot. She could fly anything with engines and make it dance through space like a bird. Through air. The captain gave her work and asked no questions about her past. While flying cargo runs, Mi-ra listened to every radio broadcast and computer message she could find. She was searching for any sign of her teammates. She heard strange stories about a human demolitions expert on an ice moon. She heard rumors about a human healer living with tree-dwelling aliens. She heard whispers about a ghost sniper and a computer expert who had embarrassed an entire slaver crew. Mi-ra began to hope that her team was alive, but she also heard other stories. Stories about ships disappearing. Stories about a creature that hunted between the stars. stories about something that was learning to be more dangerous with each hunt. The creature that had destroyed their ship was still out there, and according to the stories Mira heard, it was getting smarter. Back on his desert planet, Tai-Ho finally got his communication device working. The first message he received made his blood run cold. It was a distress call from a cargo ship. The message was broken and full of static, but Tai-Ho could make out enough words to understand what had happened. Creature came out of nowhere, learned our tactics, smarter than before, following some kind of trail. The message cut off in screams. Tai-Ho realized with growing horror that the creature had not forgotten about them. It was hunting his scattered team one by one, and every time it found one of them, it was learning more about how humans fought and survived. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, intelligent eyes were watching and learning and planning their next move. Commander Kim Tai-Ho had been working on his communication device for 4 months when he finally made contact with a passing ship. The merchant vessel picked up his signal and landed near his canyon shelter. The ship's captain was an old alien, with gray skin and 4 arms. His name was Vorthak, and he had been trading between star systems for 50 years. His ship was old but well-maintained, filled with goods from a dozen different worlds. "Human, you are lucky to be alive," Vorthak said as he looked around Tai-Ho's desert camp. "This system has become very dangerous." "What do you mean?" asked Tai-Ho. Vorthak's 4 eyes grew serious. "Something has been hunting in this area. Ships disappear. Entire crews vanish. The survivors tell strange stories about a creature that learns from its prey." Tai-Ho felt his heart race. "Tell me everything you know." The old merchant sat down and shared his food with Tai-Ho. As they ate, Vorthak told him about the reports that had been spreading through the trading networks. "It started 4 months ago," Vorthak said. "Right after your ship was destroyed. The creature began showing up at different worlds. But it was not just hunting randomly. It was following specific paths, like it was tracking something." "Tracking what?" "Your crew, human. The beast has been following them one by one." Tai-Ho's blood turned cold. "My team, are they alive?" "Some of them, yes. But the creature is getting closer to each one. And every time it finds one of your people, it becomes more dangerous." Vorthak explained what he had learned from other traders and ship captains. The creature was not just a mindless beast. It was intelligent, perhaps more intelligent than most living things in the galaxy. "We call it the Threadwalker," Vorthak said. "It can track quantum signatures across space. Every person, every ship, every living thing has a unique quantum signature. The Threadwalker can follow these signatures like footprints in mud. But how does it know where to look? That is the terrifying part, human. When your escape pods launched, they scattered in different directions. But each pod left a quantum trail pointing to where it was going. The creature has been following those trails." Tai-Ho understood the horrible truth. Their escape had not saved them. It had given the creature a map to hunt them down one by one. "There is more," Vorthak continued. "The Threadwalker does not just kill its prey, it studies them. It learns from them. Every time one of your people uses human cleverness to survive, the creature adds that knowledge to its own." "What do you mean?" "Think about it, human. Your demolitions expert has been fighting ice bears with explosives. Your medic has been healing aliens and earning their trust. Your computer expert escaped from slavers by hacking their systems. Your sniper has been winning battles with impossible shots. Your pilot has been gathering information across the sector." Tai-Ho began to see the pattern. The creature learns from watching them. Yes. Every human survival trick, every clever solution, every act of bravery makes the Threadwalker stronger and smarter. It has been using your own species' greatest strength against you. The old merchant's ship had communication equipment much better than Tai-Ho's homemade device. Together they began reaching out through underground networks and black market channels. Tai-Ho needed to warn his team about what was hunting them. The first contact came from Han Mi-Ra at the trading station. Her voice through the static sounded tired but alive. "Commander, is that really you?" "Mira, thank God you're alive." Listen carefully. The creature that destroyed our ship is hunting us. It has been tracking our quantum signatures. I know, sir, I've been hearing stories. Ships getting attacked by something that fights like it knows human tactics. The attacks are getting more sophisticated. Where are the others? I have some leads. Jinwu is still on the ice moon, but something big has been moving in that system. Somin is with a tribe of tree aliens, but there have been sightings of the creature near her planet. Dobbin stole a slaver ship and is hiding in the asteroid belts. Seok is still working as a mercenary, but the wars he's been fighting are getting stranger. Stranger how? The aliens are starting to use human tactics like something has been teaching them. Taeho felt sick. The Threadwalker was not just learning from his team, it was spreading that knowledge to other creatures. Before he could respond, Mira's transmission cut to static. Then they heard sounds of battle and her voice screaming warnings to someone. The transmission went dead. We have to help her. Taeho, said. Vorthak shook his head sadly. Human, if the Threadwalker has found her, she is already gone. The creature does not leave survivors unless it wants to. But a few hours later, they received another transmission. This time it was from Jinwu on the ice moon. Anyone out there? This is Park Jinwu, Earth Defense Demolitions. I need immediate evacuation. Something big is coming and the ice bears are running scared. Taeho grabbed the communication device. Jinwu, this is Commander Taeho. Do not engage the creature. It learns from combat. Commander? Sir? Where are you? We thought you were dead. Listen to me carefully. The creature hunting us can copy human tactics. Every time you fight it, you teach it something new. Too late, sir. It's here. Through the static, they could hear explosions in the background. Jinwu was using his demolitions training to fight something massive. The bombs are not working like before. Jinwu's voice came through the noise. It's moving differently, like it knows what I'm going to do before I do it. More explosions. The sound of ice cracking and crumbling. Sir, this thing is not just tough, it's smart. Really smart. It set traps for me using my own tactics against me. Jinwu, get out of there. Can't, sir. It's blocked all my escape routes. But I'm going to make sure it remembers this fight. The transmission filled with the sound of massive explosions. Jinwu was using everything he had learned about demolitions to bring down the entire cave system. If I don't make it, tell the others to be careful. This thing doesn't just hunt. It collects us. It's building something with what it learns from humans. The explosions reached a crescendo, then silence. Taeho stared at the dead communication device. His friend was gone, but worse than that, the creature had learned everything Jinwu knew about explosives and demolitions. Your demolitions expert fought bravely, said Vorthak quietly. But now the Threadwalker knows human engineering and explosive techniques. We have to warn the others. Human, I think you misunderstand the situation. Warning them may make things worse. What do you mean? Every time your people adapt to survive, they teach the creature something new. Every time they use human cleverness to overcome impossible odds, the Threadwalker becomes more dangerous. Not just to them, but to every living thing in the galaxy. Taeho realized the horrible truth. By trying to save his team, he might be helping the creature become an unstoppable force. Every rescue attempt, every survival technique, every human innovation was feeding the beast's intelligence. But he could not abandon his people. He would not abandon them. I need passage to the nearest planet where my team might be, Taeho told. The merchant. That would be very dangerous, human. The Threadwalker may be waiting for exactly that. Then we'll have to be smarter than it is. Vorthak looked at him with something like respect. You humans are either very brave or very stupid. Sometimes they're the same thing. As Vorthak's ship lifted off from the desert planet, Taeho looked back at the camp that had been his home for 4 months. He had survived there using human determination and cleverness, but now he wondered if that same human nature was exactly what made the Threadwalker so dangerous. Somewhere in the darkness of space, intelligent eyes were watching, learning, planning. The creature had claimed Jinwu and learned the secrets of human demolitions. Now it was moving toward its next target, carrying with it the knowledge of how humans fight when cornered. The hunt continued, and with each victory, The Threadwalker became something more terrifying than a simple predator. Was becoming human. Lee So-min was teaching a young alien child how to clean wounds when the screaming started. The tree village where she lived had been peaceful for months. The small feathered aliens had accepted her as their healer. They brought her food and materials, in exchange for her medical help. It was a simple life, but So-min had found happiness among the tree dwellers. Now that peace was shattered. The creature had found her. So-min looked up through the thick jungle canopy and saw something impossible. The Threadwalker was moving between the giant trees like they were small bushes. It was even larger than she remembered, and its skin now showed patterns that looked like circuit boards. Run to the deep forest, So-min told the aliens in their simple language she had learned. Hide until the danger passes. But the tree dwellers surprised her. Instead of running away, they grabbed their weapons. Spears made from sharp wood, nets woven from strong vines. They were not going to abandon their healer. The eldest alien, who So-min called Greyfeather, spoke in his clicking language. Sky Healer helped our children. Now we help Sky Healer. So-min felt tears in her eyes. These simple creatures were willing to fight a cosmic horror to protect her. It was the most human thing she had ever seen, and they were not even human. The Threadwalker reached the village level and paused. Its intelligent eyes studied the scene. So-min could see it thinking, planning, learning. The aliens attacked first. They moved through the trees like birds, striking with spears and disappearing into the leaves. Their attacks were coordinated and clever. They had learned from watching So-min treat their warriors' wounds. They knew where to strike to cause the most damage. But the Threadwalker adapted quickly. Too quickly. The creature began to copy the aliens' movement patterns. It learned to swing from branch to branch like they did. When the aliens used their bioelectric abilities to stun their prey, the Threadwalker absorbed that knowledge and began producing its own electric attacks. It's learning from you, So-min shouted to Greyfeather. You have to stop fighting it. But the old alien shook his head. Cannot stop. Must protect healer. The battle raged through the treetops. The Threadwalker was taking damage, but it was also taking notes. Every alien tactic became part of its arsenal. Every bioelectric pulse made its own attack stronger. So-min realized she had to choose between letting her friends die and teaching the creature more about cooperation and sacrifice. She chose to fight. Using her medical knowledge, So-min began directing the aliens to attack the creature's weak points. She had studied anatomy her whole life. She knew where every living thing was vulnerable. Hit the nerve clusters behind its arms, she called out. Avoid the chest area, that's where it stores energy. The aliens followed her instructions. Their attacks became more precise and effective. For a moment, it looked like they might actually hurt the Threadwalker. Then the creature began using So-min's own medical knowledge against them. It started targeting the aliens' nerve clusters. It avoided their natural armor and struck at their weak points. The Threadwalker had learned human anatomy and was applying that knowledge to alien biology. The battle was lost, but So-min had learned something important. The creature was not just collecting combat techniques. It was learning about cooperation, about sacrifice, about the bonds between different species. As the Threadwalker prepared to finish off the wounded aliens, So-min made a desperate choice. She activated her emergency beacon, the one device she had saved from her escape pod. The signal would attract any ships in the area. It would also tell the creature exactly where she was, but it might give the aliens time to escape. Go, she told Greyfeather. Take your people and hide. The signal will confuse the creature. The old alien looked at her with understanding. Sky Healer sacrifices for others. This is human way. Yes, So-min said. This is the human way. The aliens disappeared into the deep forest as rescue ships arrived. The Threadwalker, distracted by the new arrivals, let So-min escape in the confusion. But she knew it had learned something valuable from the battle. It now understood human medical knowledge, alien bioelectric abilities, and most dangerous of all, the concept of self-sacrifice for others. Meanwhile, Choi Da-bin was having her own encounter with the evolved Threadwalker. She had been hiding in an asteroid field for weeks, using a stolen slaver ship to stay mobile. Da-bin thought she was safe among the floating rocks. The asteroids would hide her ship's signature and give her time to plan her next move. She was wrong. The Threadwalker found her by following the quantum signature of her escape pod. But this time, it did not attack directly. It had learned patience from watching human tactics. The creature had somehow taken control of the asteroid field's automated mining systems. Robot miners that should have been harvesting ore were now hunting Da-bin's ship. "This is impossible," Da-bin said as she watched the mining robots coordinate their attacks. "These systems don't have that kind of intelligence." But they did now. The Threadwalker had absorbed Jinwoo's demolitions knowledge and was using it to turn the mining explosives into weapons. It had learned from So-min's medical knowledge and was targeting the exact points where Da-bin's ship was weakest. Da-bin realized the creature was not just using human knowledge. It was improving on it. She fought back the only way she knew how. Da-bin began hacking the mining systems, turning them against each other. She used virus programs and logic bombs to shut down the robot attacks. For every system she disabled, the Threadwalker learned something new about human computer science. It began creating its own virus programs, copying Da-bin's techniques and making them better. The battle in cyberspace was as intense as any physical fight. Da-bin's human creativity against the Threadwalker's vast intelligence and perfect memory. In the end, Da-bin escaped by doing something completely irrational. She crashed her ship into the largest asteroid, using the explosion to mask her escape in a tiny maintenance pod. The Threadwalker could copy human logic, but it struggled with human illogic. Da-bin's desperate, seemingly suicidal maneuver confused it long enough for her to get away. But the creature had learned about human computer systems, artificial intelligence, and the human tendency to make insane decisions when cornered. On the war-torn planet where Yoon Seok had been working as a mercenary, something strange was happening to the conflict. The two alien armies had been fighting the same basic war for years. Insect creatures against plant creatures using simple tactics and primitive weapons. But after the Threadwalker appeared in the system, everything changed. Suddenly, both armies were using complex strategies. They set up ambushes like human military units. They used combined arms tactics that no one had taught them. They even began using psychological warfare. Seok realized what was happening. The Threadwalker was not just hunting him. It was teaching the alien armies everything it had learned from watching human combat. The war escalated quickly. What had been a simple territorial dispute became a complex military campaign. Both sides used tactics they should not have known. When the Threadwalker finally came for Seok directly, it was not alone. It brought elements from both armies, using them like tools in a complex trap. Seok found himself surrounded by enemies using his own sniping techniques against him. They had learned to find cover, to calculate wind resistance, to predict his movements. But Seok had one advantage. He understood that the creature was too perfect. It copied human tactics exactly, without understanding why humans sometimes made mistakes on purpose. Seok began making deliberate errors. He missed shots he should have made. He took positions that looked weak. He acted like a human having a bad day rather than a perfect soldier. The Threadwalker and its alien allies began copying these mistakes, thinking they were advanced tactics. In the confusion, Seok managed to escape to a hidden bunker. But the creature had learned something even more dangerous. It now understood that humans sometimes used apparent weakness as a strength. As Seok sent out a desperate message to any human ships in the area, he realized the true horror of their situation. The Threadwalker was not just learning human survival techniques. It was learning what made humans human: their creativity, their willingness to sacrifice for others, their ability to cooperate across species lines, their tendency to make irrational decisions that somehow worked. All of these uniquely human traits were now part of the creature's arsenal. And somewhere in space, Han Mi-ra and Commander Tae-ho were racing to reach their surviving teammates before the Threadwalker could complete its collection of human knowledge. The creature had learned about explosives from Jinwoo. It had learned about medicine and cooperation from Somin. It had learned about computer systems and desperate tactics from Dobbin. It had learned about military strategy and deliberate weakness from Seok. Now it was becoming something new, something that combined cosmic horror with human intelligence. The final confrontation was coming, and the Threadwalker would be ready for anything humans could throw at it, or so it thought. Commander Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the makeshift ship they had built from salvaged parts. Around him, his surviving team members prepared for what they all knew would be their final battle. Han Mira sat at the pilot controls, her hands steady despite everything they had been through. Lee So-min checked her medical supplies one last time, knowing she might need to treat wounds that no human had ever survived. Choi Dobbin worked at her computer station, monitoring the space around them for any sign of the Threadwalker. Yoon Seok cleaned his rifle with the calm focus of a professional soldier. They were back in the asteroid field where their nightmare had begun 6 months ago. The wreckage of their original ship still floated among the rocks, a reminder of how much they had lost. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Somin quietly. "No," Tae-ho admitted, "but fighting it the normal way is suicide. The creature knows everything we know about combat, tactics, and survival. It has learned from every human technique we used against it." "So what do we do?" asked Mira. "We do something it cannot understand. Something that goes against every survival instinct we have." Dobbin looked up from her computer screen. "Contact approaching. It's big. Really big." Through the viewports they could see the Threadwalker moving toward them, but it was not the same creature that had attacked them 6 months ago. It had grown larger, more complex. Its skin showed patterns that looked like human neural networks mixed with alien bioelectric systems. Parts of it glowed with the energy signatures of a dozen different species. "It has been collecting more than just our knowledge," whispered Seok. "It has been absorbing abilities from every species it encountered." The creature stopped just outside weapon range and waited. It was studying them, trying to predict what tactics they would use. "All weapons powered down," ordered Tae-ho. "Sir?" Jinwoo would have questioned that order if he were still alive. The others looked uncertain. "Power down everything. Weapons, shields, even life support systems we don't absolutely need." "Commander?" "That's suicide," said Mira. "No, that's the point. The Threadwalker expects us to fight. It has learned to counter every human combat technique, but it has never encountered humans who refuse to fight." Dobbin's hands hesitated over her controls. "Sir, if this doesn't work, then we die. But if we fight it the way it expects, we definitely die. And it learns even more about human nature in the process." One by one, they shut down their ship's systems. Weapons went offline. Defensive shields collapsed. Even the artificial gravity turned off, leaving them floating in their seats. The Threadwalker moved closer, clearly confused by this behavior. In all its encounters with humans, they had always fought back. They had always tried to survive using their intelligence and creativity. "Now we broadcast our location on all frequencies," Tae-ho said. "That will attract every ship in the system," warned Mira. "Exactly. We make ourselves completely visible and helpless." So-min activated the communication array. Their ship began broadcasting on every channel, announcing their location and asking for help. Anyone within light years would know exactly where they were. The Threadwalker stopped moving entirely. Its massive form floated in space, studying this unprecedented behavior. For the first time in its existence, it could not predict what its prey would do next. "Phase 2, said Tae-ho quietly. "Dobbin, activate the virus." For months, Dobbin had been working on a special computer program. Not a weapon or a tool, but something much stranger. It was a virus designed to copy itself endlessly, creating feedback loops that would overload any system trying to analyze it. "Virus uploaded to all our systems," Dobbin reported. "It's designed to show the creature something impossible." "What's impossible about a computer virus?" asked Seok. "This virus makes our ship's computer try to calculate infinity. It creates patterns that loop back on themselves forever. No intelligence, no matter how advanced, can fully process true chaos." The Threadwalker began scanning their ship, trying to understand what the humans were planning. It detected the virus and began analyzing it just as Dabin had hoped. But the virus was not just random data. It was human irrationality made into code. It contained every irrational decision humans had ever made throughout history. Every time someone had chosen love over logic, hope over fear, sacrifice over survival. The creature has been learning human logic, Tejo explained as they watched the Threadwalker struggle with the data. It understands our tactics, our intelligence, our problem-solving abilities, but it has never encountered pure human illogic. The Threadwalker began to change. Its perfect coordination started to falter. Parts of its body moved in different directions as it tried to process patterns that had no solution. "It's working," breathed Somin. "The creature is overloading," but Tejo knew they needed more than a computer virus to stop something this powerful. "Phase 3, he said. "Everyone out of your seats." "Sir, we're going to do the most human thing possible. We're going to act completely crazy." They unstrapped themselves and began floating around the bridge. Mira started singing an old Earth song. Somin began doing medical procedures on imaginary patients. Dabin played games on her computer while their ship drifted towards certain death. Siok disassembled his rifle and started using the parts to build paper airplanes. Tejo began giving contradictory orders. "Turn left and right at the same time. Prepare to attack while surrendering. Get ready to run toward the enemy." The Threadwalker's scans intensified. It was desperately trying to understand this behavior, to find the pattern that would let it predict and counter human actions. But there was no pattern. The humans were acting purely on instinct, emotion, and randomness. They were being completely, chaotically human. The creature began to convulse. Its perfect form started breaking apart as different sections tried to process incompatible information. It had absorbed too much human knowledge without understanding the fundamental chaos that drove human behavior. "It's trying to be logical and illogical at the same time," Dabin observed as she monitored the creature's energy patterns. "The contradictions are tearing it apart." The Threadwalker made one last desperate attempt to understand. It projected images into their minds, showing them every human it had studied. Jinwoo's explosive expertise, Somin's medical knowledge, Dabin's computer skills, Siok's tactical thinking. But it also showed them something else. Every act of human kindness it had witnessed. Every moment when humans had chosen to help others instead of helping themselves. Every time humans had acted against their own self-interest, for no logical reason. It learned about human survival instincts, Tejo realized, but it never understood that humans survive by ignoring their survival instincts when it matters most. The Threadwalker began to tear itself apart. It had become too human to remain a perfect predator, but too alien to understand human irrationality. The contradictions in its enhanced intelligence created a cascade failure that spread through its entire being. As the creature dissolved into quantum static, it sent one final message to the human ship. Not words, but pure emotion. Confusion, frustration, and something that might have been respect. The Threadwalker had learned everything about human knowledge and abilities, but it had never learned the most important human trait of all, the willingness to do something completely stupid if it might save others. "Is it over?" asked Mira, as they watched the last traces of the creature fade into space. "Yes," said Tejo. "But we need to send a warning to Earth Defense. There might be other creatures like this one out there." Somin was already composing the message. "What should we tell them?" "Tell them that our greatest weakness is also our greatest strength. Tell them that sometimes the most human thing to do is to act completely inhuman. And tell them that no matter how intelligent something becomes, it can never truly understand chaos unless it's willing to embrace it." As their cobbled-together ship limped toward the nearest space station, the 5 survivors looked back at the empty space where the Threadwalker had been. They had lost Jinwoo, but they had learned something important about what made humans special. It was not their intelligence or their technology or their fighting abilities. It was their beautiful, chaotic, completely irrational humanity. And sometimes, that was enough to save the galaxy. The rescue ships that had heard their distress call began arriving, filling the space around them with friendly lights and familiar voices. The nightmare was over, but the lesson would be remembered forever. Humans were dangerous not because they were perfect, but because they were perfectly willing to be imperfect when perfection would fail. That was the most human trait of all.